Hello, everybody. My name is Joel Filderman, and welcome to the Dog Trainers Connection. I am not a dog trainer, but these people you see here are. We get together, we discuss topic, come up with some thoughts, some ideas, and sometimes some answers, but we always have an interesting discussion. And trainers, for our topic today, well, before I do that, we do have a guest with us today. Our guest is Valerie Ann Irwin, a dog trainer from New Paltz. Welcome to the forum, Valerie.
Thank you very much. I'm honored to be here.
Thank you. So the topic that we're going to discuss today is, well, it seems to be a topic that's been pretty popular this last week, which is a study about breeds, breed characteristics, and that they don't really matter. That the breed descriptions don't really matter, and that the breed characteristics don't really matter, that each dog is individual. And Steve, would you explain that a little further?
Yeah, I'll do the best I can. So the study comes out and basically suggests that there were a couple of thousand dogs. They were pet dogs, and the information came from mostly owners. There was some DNA samples and all this, and they really leaned on the variability within any given breed, right? And basically they come to, well, it doesn't matter, you can get whatever you want, just treat it the way you want. Yeah, it's going to come out right. They really don't give any substance to the whole selective breeding, why we do that, how we've done all these years. And I mean, I used to say all the time, if you want to go hunting for rabbits, aren't you going to get a beagle? Isn't that what, you kind of, wouldn't you be reaching out that way? And that doesn't mean your beagle is going to be a good rabbit hunter. But some of my back and forth with some doctorate level behavior folks are like, well, I wish they would have put a little more emphasis on that, right? They don't seem to like really lock that down much. It was all about, it doesn't matter, which I think is a little crazy myself. I almost felt like reaching out to the University of Pennsylvania working dog group from the university. I mean, they've got this whole working dog thing going on. I'd like to ask them if they'd like to bring in some show-line German Shepherds for their program. They'd laugh me out of the thing. Are you kidding me? They're usually mostly Malinois now. Oh yeah, it doesn't matter. You can get anything. Why don't you get a Cocker Spaniel? It'll be all right. It's like, well, maybe it will. Can't say no, but it's very, it's been everywhere, right? Washington Post. There's a lot. So everybody's reading this thing, and that's only going to put some pressure on us, the dog trainers, when we show up to a place where the dog is behaving normally. The owner just doesn't like it. And with this breed of dog tends to behave this way, and they're going to say, oh no, I read in the Washington Post or the New York Times, I saw it on the news. It's like, oh no, that's not right. You don't know what you're talking about, because it's a scientific study was done of like, so this is hurtful. I think it's hurtful. I think they didn't reach out to the dog training population. I think it was all owners. I love the way they kind of scurried around that thing, but that's what I know, and I get it. I think we all agree. There's a lot of diversity within breeds, right? But there's a reason there are breeds, right? And a lot of them do behave as intended. I mean, I guess we could have the show dog talk where they don't really much care in a lot of cases if the dog's got drive for the work. But there are those, right? A lot of hunting dogs, you go to the hound group, there's a lot of hounds that actually have titles in field work and things, sporting dogs and conformation. I think that's the best of the best when people do all that. Show that your dog has instinct as he was bred to behave. But they're tearing that down now, it seems. I wonder how they could going to respond, and
Sure. So I'm going to ask everybody here, is there a danger in this study? Is there something that this could be a real problem by saying that dog breeds don't matter, that their characteristics don't matter? And that can be from the owner's point of view or from a trainer's point of view. Does anybody have a comment on that?
Okay.
Go ahead, Helen. Yeah.
I get what you're saying, Steve, about how it can be dangerous. You know, you walk into a situation with an owner and the dog is behaving appropriately for its breed. Oh, but breed doesn't matter. But I think you're giving a lot of people more credit for reading than I do personally. And the ones who've read this article, I mean, it's here today and gone next week. That's just my opinion. I mean, you know, there may be some people who are gonna, you know, wave the red flag with that study, but I also think it's easily debunked. I mean, just the fact that they didn't involve trainers, they did owners, and dog owners color everything the way they see it. Everything is through their lens, their eyes. You know, I had a client tell me, oh, I have a 4-month-old puppy. He's trying to dominate my 4-year-old child. Yeah, no, he's jumping on him and playing with him. Oh, he keeps jumping on him and biting him. He's trying to dominate him. No, he's trying to play with him. But, you know, and that person didn't read the study, but they're going to believe what they're going to believe. So I don't know that it does much in the way of harm, but I could be wrong. Wouldn't be the first time.
Did somebody else start to say something? I thought I heard. Yeah, go ahead, Valerie.
I actually released a post yesterday or the day I saw one Times record before it all was in 4 or 5 different news outlets. I saw the Times release of their interpretation of the study, which I also went back and read the study. And the biggest problem that I see for other dogs, and I actually put this in my post, was that they were saying that dog behavior is not based on breed, and there was only a 9% variability in what could be shown by genetics to be different in the behaviors between dogs. And well, the humans are literally 1.2% genetically different than chimpanzees.
Right.
If within the dog breeds, we're seeing this is within dogs only, we're seeing a 9%, only 9%, because this was based on owner observations on the behavior reports, the genetic reports. There were 13,000 dogs they had to choose from. They picked 2,000 that they felt were purebreds. And then those owners got to describe their dogs rather than behaviorists or dog trainers. And so a 9% variability, even if they were under.
Oh, you muted yourself, Valerie.
The fact that they were saying it doesn't matter because it was only 9%. What the big thing I see for the problem for that applies to what I'm seeing across clients, rescues, in almost a lot of forms where the wrong dogs end up in the wrong home because adopters and purchasers are being convinced that breed doesn't matter. So putting a Malinois in a home with people that are unable to fulfill those needs, or herding breed, or a guardian breed and a family with children,
Sure.
or like the kind of guardian breed that doesn't bond with people, you know, so the breed matters. And I think they do the public a disservice by convincing people to buy breeds that are unsuitable for whatever the person's lifestyle is. I think it's unfair to the dogs too.
Sure.
I think a correlation with that, and to an extension of what Valerie just said, is there are a lot of shelters and rescues that either don't know what the dog is that they've got in front of them because it was just an owner surrender or a stray and we don't know, or they don't want to admit to what they have. And I think that does people a great disservice as well, to call every brindle dog that comes into the shelter a boxer mix, and to call every black dog that comes into the shelter a Labrador mix, when, sorry, there's a lot of pit bull mixes out there. There just are. And to refer to them as something that they're not, to deny what their heritage could be, that there's bully breed back there, which means maybe I handle them differently, maybe I interact with other dogs differently. I think it does the owners and the dogs both a great disservice. So a study like this that says breed doesn't matter just encourages shelters to continue doing what they're doing and rescues to continue doing what they're doing. And again, it goes back to what Valerie said, where the wrong dogs wind up in the wrong homes. So they're not a match. But if you don't know what you've got, it's hard to put it in the right place.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would agree with all that. And I think a lot of that has to do with like the environment. No one talks much. We all know about that, how the environment plays a big role with that too. And I think most people, when they buy a pet, they're doing it just as that as a pet and to fit their lifestyle. They're not necessarily doing it as, there are obviously exceptions. People buy a dog to go hunting. So they get a dog that's the breed that's specified for hunting, for instance, or a dog for protection, a dog for police work.
Right.
And even within those categories, obviously we all know that some of those breed specific dogs, like a German Shepherd, might be great for police work. I'm making this up, but maybe out of 50 dogs, only 10% of them are going to be good for police work. The other German Shepherds just don't fit the bill because they're not doing the things they're supposed to do. And I think that holds true with any breed for that particular thing they're doing, whether it be a sporting group, whatever it might be. And people aren't necessarily buying it for sport or for protection. They're buying it just for a house pet or whatever. And that dog may or may not fit the bill. It may fit that personality. It may not. So, you know, you might get a German Shepherd that's closer in personality to I'm making this up, a poodle, for instance. Even though breed specific, there are some general characteristics that obviously fall in for each one.
Mm-hmm. I found it very interesting that Valerie said at one point that they looked at the genetic study and they said that these are the ones who are probably purebred. So does that invalidate the study as a whole? Because if you're saying that the dog isn't necessarily purebred, does that mean that it has no validity to it to start with?
All right. I like, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, Jeff, yeah, but whoever, go ahead.
Go ahead, Val.
I would, to be honest with you, I'm a scientist. I was a scientist before I was a dog trainer. For a long time, 20 years, I worked in a hospital as a scientist and a researcher. And the study, the actual study is the beginning of the study about a hypothesis about how genetics and behavior connect. They released a very limited statement about their study and what they were thinking they might be seeing. The study isn't valid yet because it has no controlled variables.
Sure.
Experts who did the tests, or if one of us, so I train from a relationship and ethology perspective. Other people might train from a obedience and sport work perspective. So each one of us might come up with different ways we describe the behavior, but if one person assessed those 2,000 dogs, you would have a continuous controlled assessment of all the dogs.
Sure.
We have owners giving opinions about what they think they're seeing, which is so easy to misinterpret because there's so much conflicting information out there about dog behavior and how even trainers view it differently. So as a scientist, the whole study's invalid because there are way too many uncontrolled variables. That's the idea, though, their genetic study and the purpose of attempting to see how behavior can be related to genetics, I think that's phenomenal, but it's still an idea, and to release it as a study is way too early.
And what I was just thinking, why did they do this study now? And why did they do it now? It seemed to me to be anti-AKC, which, you know, I really, even in some of the things that I read, I was like, wow, what are they trying to undermine the AKC? And because it seems contradictory to what the breed descriptions that you go to AKC to read to find out what kind of dog you might get. So it just seems, I was just trying to look at what was the reason for it underneath and who was behind it and who
funded the study.
Who
Funded the study is like the most important question you can ask.
That's it, right? Who funded it? Because that's your answer. That's the reason. Whoever funded it will tell you the reason why.
Actually, look that up.
Yeah, we did too, Valerie.
Okay, sorry.
But no, go
I
ahead.
look forward to hearing what you found out.
No, but we looked it up, but I still felt that there was somebody else behind that. Joel and I were just kind of conjecturing about, I know one was a Broad Foundation.
Broad Foundation, yes.
And what else, Joel? Do you remember?
Um,
The,
well, Valerie, what
maybe
did you
Valerie
find?
remembers.
So actually, I didn't see that one, but I
Okay.
found on a study, the interest for the way it was explained, that the interest for the study and what I'm observing across human and canine platforms is that the DNA testing facilities that are selling us all these kits
Right.
are extremely interested in producing studies that will get more people to make more kits, you know,
Mhm.
to sell the kits, but also like the Human
Right.
Genomic Project, there's a
Right.
Dog
Yes.
Genomic Project,
Yes.
and somebody come in and say, just as an interested scientist, who will fund me seeing how genetics related to behavior, any one of those DNA companies are going to jump on it and say, I'll do it, because you're going to need a ton of people to provide it, and it justifies all of our so I have 23andMe and Ancestry.com testing on me. Every
Right.
day they're trying to sell me new things to get more testing, to
Sure.
sell me new people I'm related to. And now I think they're trying to tap into the same market for dogs. I didn't think about a political agenda. If people like about the AKC, if other people found information about that, I would totally love to hear about it, because I always try to watch those things too.
If this was funded by DNA companies, the results seem to be counter to what they would want.
They actually put a statement out about that. Even the people who were doing the study disagreed with all those news agencies who took one statement and wrote entire articles about it that were not, they were all new assumptions about what it meant.
Right.
So there's been a number of people trying to make this go away that
Mm.
were involved in the actual original study. Who got it to all the news agencies at that level
Mhm.
that riled so many people up?
Yep.
That's the suspicious thing, I think.
That is. Yes.
Absolutely.
Jeff, you've been awfully quiet.
Yeah, I was just trying to wrap my head around it, to be perfectly honest with you. And you know, if it's like Val said, it's a precursor to other follow-up work. Like at face value, you're like, okay, so this is kind of a stepping stone, which still makes no sense to me. You know, and I kind of tap into my days in corporate America. My last job in corporate America, I was actually a Six Sigma black belt. It's all about statistical analysis.
Yeah.
And for anything to have any statistical or mathematically scientific valuable data, you need a sample size of at least 1,000.
Right.
So number one, you don't have that because you have a couple of thousand of all different breeds. So I guess is that my understanding of the sample size?
It was 13,000
13,000, how many breeds?
mixed breeds, and 27 breeds maybe were listed. I actually, somebody else posted me a John Imler from the IACP, and he's a dog trainer as well, and also a sciencey guy. He sent me a study that was the refuting. I basically repeated what I said, but in my post, but in super science language.
Mhm.
They had, and it said that they'd taken 2,000 and some of these 27 dogs that they could, 27 breeds that they could find purebred, what looks like purebred breeds within the genomics, and then applied the hypothesis to those breeds, because
So that was
there were a lot of
applied to,
mixed breeds in the
so they took
13,000.
2,000 out of the 13,000
Correct. It's
to
still a small sample. I agree with you.
to publish this study.
Yes.
Okay.
And that was part of the problems, was that
Right.
if you take 27 breeds and divide it into 2,000, you have less than 1,000 for each breed.
Oh, sure. And so then the first thing I thought of was the whole food fiasco with grain-free food.
Mhm.
Like 600 dogs died over a 5-year period out of tens of millions of dogs eating grain-free food. So you have a 0% chance of your dog dying from grain-free food, statistically. I'm not saying it's not a cause, but it's just another study that creates this drama, right? So this study now, and they're asking people. Like I joked around earlier, like they're asking teachers and plumbers and hairdressers and, you know, construction workers. They're probably getting a good variety of people trying to touch all demographics. I'm guessing that would be one of their angles if they want to get some objective feedback, right? Let's say, all right, let's say you have a 26-year-old single athletic, active yoga instructor with a border collie, and you ask her certain questions about that dog, and then you ask a 59-year-old big fat plumber who has the same dog, the same questions, you're going to get completely different answers.
Of course.
Right? The plumber's gonna be like, oh my God, this is the worst thing I ever did. This dog is an asshole. I can't believe it. This dog's got issues. And the yoga instructor is gonna be, oh my God, we do so many things together. It's the most wonderful dog in the world. So smart and intelligent and eager to please. Like, I mean, the insanity of this study of you, as you're all talking about what it means, nothing. It means nothing. It means absolutely nothing, right? And, you know, granted, even if you ask, all right, so there's 6, there's 8 of us.
Mhm.
If you asked 8 of us to work with 10 Labradors each, okay, that's a decent sample size. You're asking professionals, right? In our own sample size, our own sample of 10 dogs, we're going to have varying degrees of responses. And David hit the nail on the head, right? Environment is not just the home and the interior, it's the lifestyle, the care, the people in the home, all that stuff, right? There are no, it doesn't, and I have to read it when we hang up. I have to go research this because there's like no control mechanisms. That's like them asking all of us, getting us dog trainers together, right? And asking us about the performance of our stainless steel silverware. Like, what the hell? I poke my fork in food and I put it in my mouth. It works. Like, I don't know. Is there some? Are we supposed to know about that? Right? They're asking dog owners their experience based on dog ownership, not on breeds. As far as I'm concerned, before dogs are breeds, they're dogs. Before they're dogs, they're animals. You got animal behavior, you got dog behavior, you got breed characteristics, and then you got humans that come along and screw it all up, right? So, yeah, I think these studies, maybe they're trying to figure out how dumb America really is. How much bullshit can we shove down their throat that they'll believe, right? And now that this is called science. They literally asked and did a survey of regular, everyday people about dog behavior, and if it's proven, all right, they're going to call it science. I can tell you what's 2022, 15 years ago, I did a study, my own personal study on wolves in captivity, the life expectancy in captivity. I created the study, I created my questions, I contacted all the wolf sanctuaries across the United States personally. And my whole hypothesis was wolves that are fed raw diets and not vaccinated every year live longer. Do you know I proved my hypothesis? And my questions had a lot to do with that.
Sure.
But I also asked actual wolf people.
Yeah.
I didn't contact I don't know. I can't even come up with something, but so hypotheses and these types of studies are all, the point is to prove something. I don't know what they're trying to prove.
It's got to make, maybe Ray Coppinger, I thought, was a genius, and he had this whole thing. Where did breeds come from? Remember that? He did that whole thing. Oh well, we selected based on their performance, right? So form followed function.
Mm-hmm.
There's always going to be a nature nurture thing, but forms followed function. I mean, that's how these dogs developed. We didn't kill ourselves to create this. We were looking for certain behaviors. So we bred the dogs that behaved a certain way together, and we tried to nurture that, right? I mean, that made sense to me, right? How do we get all these dogs? Well, we did was we we selected for what what worked for us, right? Whether it be English Toy Spaniel or whatever it is, right? The whole Greyhound thing, the Huskies. He did that whole thing with the sled dog stuff. I mean, the guy was I thought a great researcher. I'm sorry he's gone. They called him Crazy Ray, but nonetheless, I thought he was a pretty smart guy, and he always made sense to me, right? That whole thing. How did they come to be? Well, form follows function. So they created that form because we selected for that function, and they just got better and better. So, longer nose, deep chest for racing dogs and all this, that all made total sense to me, So, this kind of messes with that a little bit. That's his whole thing was, how do we get these dogs? We got it because we selected for the behaviors. And a lot of these behaviors are strong. And a lot of and not in, I mean, you go to the toy group, you're not going to like work on that so much. But there are a lot of dogs that really do have, whether you can deal with it or not. And one of these doctorates came to me, sent me a note saying, well, it's a lot about what you do. Well, of course it has a lot to do with what you do. You're not going to toss the nurture thing out the window, but that's what we do for a living. We nurture for a living, right? We teach that, right? So, please, it's insulting.
Yeah.
It bothers the heck out of me, and I know Jeff always calls, a lot of those folks, the alphabet, it's like, well, they got away with all that publicity because they got the alphabet behind them. And, that's not good enough in a lot of cases. It's just not, I think experience here plays a huge role. I can't throw that out.
Sure.
That's right.
I mean, I'd be interested, like, what exactly the questions were. What was posed to the dog owners, like that drew the ultimate conclusion that breed has little to do with behavior in a domestic setting. Like, I don't like, what were you know what I mean?
They were asked to describe the behavior of their dogs. Isn't that correct, Valerie?
They actually did have specific questions, but this was interesting because they're asking questions like, what is your dog drive? The questions were fairly vague.
Yeah.
They didn't. So I thought the questions were, I did read the list of questions. They were the kinds of questions I remember coming from the ethology perspective, because I try to understand why dogs have behaviors back to the beginning, but I also understand exactly what Stephen was saying, that we have refined that in certain breeds. So from the ethology perspective, the questions were very much about the humans' opinions about the dog's behaviors, rather than were you observing what might or might not have been the dog's native behaviors.
And Val, were they like multiple choice, or were they open-ended questions that you could actually fill in the blank type of thing? And
no, I think they were open-ended, but I didn't actually see how the responses were.
Right,
so
right.
It didn't say these were multiple choice questions, and these are the choices they gave them. I think they were 1 to 10 maybe on some of them.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that clears things up too. I mean, you could have, like, if I'm working with a rat terrier, and like I'm seeing all rat terrier, like I'm getting excited. I'm like, oh yeah, that's a ratter. I'm like, like I get happy. I'm like, yeah, that dog is so damn happy right now. And the people are calling me because they are at their wits' end. They're frustrated beyond belief because this dog is a menace to their property. And I walk in, I'm like, oh yeah, this is great. The Rottweiler that won't let anybody in the house. I'm like, good boy. I'm like, good boy. You're doing your freaking job. Like, so it's like I tell my clients, behavioral problems are relative. Right? It's a behavioral problem when someone says it is. So if they're offering these questions and people are just answering them, again, I'd like to see the questions. Sorry, you know me. I lose.
No, that's fine. I fully agree with you. So we're going to wrap this up shortly, but I'm just going to ask if anybody has anything else they want to add.
The only thing I was going to add was that the late Donald McCaig had border collies, that were registered with the American Border Collie Association, which was a non-AKC group, and which registers based on merit, essentially.
Mhm.
And he used to tell people that if your dog can work like a Border Collie, we'll run them through and open whatever they call their trials.
Right.
That if your dog works like a Border Collie, in fact, we will register it as a Border Collie because
Mhm.
that's what we're basing it on. And he was reasonably sure that the only dogs that ever passed any of the tests that they went through were actual Border Collies.
Mhm.
Surprise. So, you know, if you're using behavior as a criteria, in this case, there are no other breeds that work or behave like that in a way that they would choose to register that way. So just throwing that out there.
Yep. Okay. Well, thank you very much, trainers. As always, it was an interesting discussion. And as always, it's complicated, as Steve loves to say. So I want to thank everybody for being here. I want to thank everybody for watching. And don't forget to like us on Facebook if you haven't already, and give us a like or a thumbs up for this video. And we will see you next time. Thanks a lot, folks. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.